Hey, welcome to my channel. This is Spirit Soul Sense, information for your soul. And today I really want to go over some tips for how you can communicate as effectively as possible by being assertive in your personal life. It is not easy. I would say it's not easy. It wasn't easy for me to go through this process where I'm able to say what I feel when I feel it. I don't think I'm even 100% there all the time, but I can practice in my mind, practice with somebody else, how I want to say something that might make somebody else uncomfortable. So I was a bit of an anxious child. Yeah, I was very quiet. I'm an introvert. I had like all the world in my mind, and I didn't really have much to say to other people. I really enjoyed observing other people, but I also had this fear of upsetting people. I didn't want to step on anybody's toes. I didn't want anyone to be mad at me. I didn't want anyone to speak loudly to me, raise their voice at me, reprimand me. I just didn't want any of those negative experiences. So I would go along to get along because I didn't want to ruffle any feathers, And when you have this feeling of, I'm afraid to say something, I'm afraid to stand up for myself, I don't want them to be upset, then it's really about figuring out what your boundaries are. Are you getting your needs met? Because you being happy is just as important as other people being happy. Actually, I would say you being happy and taking care of yourself is more important than taking care of somebody else's feelings or not wanting to upset somebody or, going out of your way when you might be hurting yourself just to get along. In a small way, I practice one of these sayings: don't ask permission, ask for forgiveness. I'm not really out here hurting people, harming people, anything like that. But sometimes you just have to do the thing. You just have to do the thing. And if it's what's best for you and your intention is not to hurt or harm other people, if it's what you want to do, I would encourage you to do that. Similarly, you have to practice ways to say no. And so I found something online that gives a lot of different ways to say no, or I don't want to do something, without actually saying the word no. The word no is a complete sentence. I also encourage people not to explain themselves, over explain themselves. If you would prefer not to do something and you said, well, no thanks, and someone is upset with you because you said no thanks, it's really their personal problem. A lot of the practice goes into being comfortable with making other people uncomfortable, being comfortable with the discomfort. That takes time, and I would encourage people to start small. Like, do you want to come to this party? If you have a hard time saying no to something like that, or do you want to eat this food and it's something you don't like, practice saying no to things like that, so that when bigger things come into play, like, do you want to do this business deal? Do you want to go to this major vacation? Do you want to spend a significant amount of money? You have the confidence inside of yourself to say no. If you find yourself having to ask people what to do, or you feel like people aren't asking you what it is that you want, and maybe you feel some resentment or just some unsettling, you don't even know what the feeling is, or if you feel any anger, I think those emotions are indications for steering us in the right direction. An emotion like anger, if you have a conversation with someone and you feel angry after, or you feel like, your family member, your friend is not considering what it is that you want to do. If you are feeling angry, a lot of times that's a sign that you need to do something. And so one of those things can be enforcing your boundaries, or creating and enforcing your boundaries. So what kind of communication do you have with other people? How often are you communicating with them? Are they allowed to disrespect you with their language? Are they allowed to disrespect your time? Right? Do you have people who show up late all the time to events that you plan? Do you have people who, manipulate, kind of take advantage of you in other ways? There's so many different ways that poor boundaries with other people can impact our life and lead us to accepting less than we're worth, right? Because you are worth all that and a bag of chips. Like, you are deserving of every wonderful goodness that this life has to offer. You just have to see it in yourself. And so in this process, this is likely just one aspect of a bigger challenge that you're experiencing. I recommend therapy to a lot of people. I think everyone can benefit from therapy. I also recommend life coaching to some folks who, maybe don't meet criteria for a diagnosis, but they're just having difficulty in their life that they would like to improve upon. Getting to the root cause of whatever it is that you're experiencing can also be helpful in giving you the confidence to say no or stand up for yourself in situations that you find difficult. So I'm in a situation right now where I am having to say no to something that I had previously said yes to, and remembering, because I have this video on my channel about how not to end a friendship, and I just think all the time about how afraid I was to share with my friend how I was feeling about the friendship. And not having conversations about changes, difficulties can often lead to bigger problems. When there's open communication, there's likely chance for things to improve because you're talking about them, you're figuring it out. I also was sort of working with someone who experienced a lot of fear around standing up for herself. So I wasn't working with her directly, and she's 70 something. And this is why I'm like, no matter where you are in your age, it makes sense to work on these things now, because if you don't work on them now, you're still gonna have these problems when you get older. If you don't make any changes, if you're not evolving at all, you're gonna have the same problems now at 70, 60, 80, you're gonna have the same problems. And maybe, in your life, I've heard stories of people, who've had the same problems just with different people in their life, or, people who die unhappy because of the decisions that they made, not making any changes in their life. So the example is, this woman shares a room, she has a roommate, and they each have a TV. I think they each have a TV. But maybe her TV is nicer, right? And so her roommate likes to tell her what to put on that channel because her roommate likes to watch those things. She doesn't like the same things that her roommate likes. So yes, it's nice to be kind to your roommate, share, give her a turn to see something, but you should be able to also say, hey, I want to watch this thing. But this lady had such difficulty doing that. And she would say, I don't want to say anything. She whispered it because she was so fearful of the response of somebody else. You cannot control other people's reactions. The only thing you can control is yourself. You gotta put it in your mind that your needs are just as important, if not more important, I really think, because you're the master of you. Your needs have to come before other people's needs. Not that you don't consider other people, not that you're not a compassionate person, but that you understand you have to create boundaries, and people are gonna have an opinion of you no matter what you do. You don't want to be the person who's walked all over and then angry at other people for walking on you when you haven't set any boundaries with other people for what you require. You require people to treat you with kindness. You require people to respect your no, right? Your time, your essence, who you are. You're going to show up and you're going to have difficult conversations with people, because sometimes you have to have difficult conversations. It's a part of being human. And we can learn a lot from one another by having these difficult conversations. So my challenge to you is practice saying no in some of the different ways I showed. First, before you start with like really, really big ones, like, oh my gosh, start small and see how it feels. And then explore what some of those feelings bring up for you. Some of this is best done with a therapist or a life coach. You can look in the description box for a link to my website. I have started doing spiritual life coaching. If you think that we would be a good match, you can reach out to me. A match? If you think that we would be a good match, you can reach out to me using the link to request an appointment. I look forward to hearing from you, and thank you for watching. Also, share this video if you think it could help somebody, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. And thanks again for 1,000 subscribers.